Welcome to Marji Gesick. This is reportedly the hardest mountain bike race in the US, in the world. I don't know. Jeremiah Bishop, mountain bike influencer, said that one time, and they have stuck to it. And as with any good grassroots race, we're starting with a Le Mans start, which is a half-mile run until you can find your bike in just a chaos of bikes in a field. I kind of started second row, but moved my way up there. This is presented by the Black Bibs and Team Winston-Salem, who both have supported a little off-road season for me this year. If you don't know me, I'm Will Harden. I race all kinds of bikes, mostly focusing on criterium and road racing, and here we are trying to find one of my bikes, which is a Specialized Epic. I've got a blue fork on there, like a RockShox Ultimate Blue Fork, which was easier to find, but it was still hard to find my bike in this absolute chaos. Eventually, wormed my way through the crowd, jumped on, and I am on the course under the first thing. It starts off in, I think, Ishmapeg. Don't quote me on any of these words. I'm not from Michigan, and these are, I assume, native names. And then we snake down into Marquette. There are a bunch of trail systems here. It starts off with a lot easier trails. You can see these are more of snowmobile trails that we're riding through at the moment. So the start is much flatter and less technical than the race is going to do for the rest of it. It's 100 miles, and the normal finishing time is 10.5 hours. You can see Matt on the left there in the black zooming by us after he got through us from the start, and he is just zipping down these trails. He is a Michigan local. A lot of these guys are from Michigan and race mountain bikes all the time. What you don't see, passing a little 4x4 here, what you don't see is off the front, a guy named Jared, also from Michigan, local mountain bike racer. He is minutes off the front at this point. I guess he just killed it in the run and then just started hammering from the beginning. And we are snaking through the trails. We're not going easy. Like, I'm up to 160 beats per minute already. We're maybe 2 miles into this point. I'll note that the GPS file did struggle with some of these single tracks and wooded areas. So you'll see at the top, it's kind of a rough estimation of where we are on course, but you'll be able to tell how many miles in we are and about what heart rate I'm going. Speed's also a little rough, so it's a rough estimation. I attacked also, and there was a guy in blue who started elevating the pace, and I went with him, and he dropped me in the single track. I rode on my own for a little bit before this section here, and then I missed a turn, so I got caught by a group of probably 5 or 6 dudes into some single track. This guy up front, he was pretty skilled on the mountain bike, and I am not as skilled on the mountain bike. Jumped off and just started running. I am pretty confident with my mount and dismount, mostly on a cross bike, so you'll see I'll have some hiccups here on the mountain bike with this super tall bike, dropper post and everything. My dropper post did have some malfunctions on this day. It's a little bit older unit, so every once in a while I'd hit that button and it just wouldn't come back up for me. So that's what we're dealing with today, and I'm following this dude. 14 miles in, we've got a group, pretty good group of guys, and we're motoring. My heart rate is pretty high for staring down the barrel of what is potentially a 12-hour day on the bike. To give you context, the longest day I've ever done is a race called the Croatan Buck 50, 150 miles on gravel, and that took me 7.5 hours. So I am not prepared for this level of exertion on this type of trail, on this bike for that matter. So this is a big reach for me. This is going to be one of the more challenging exploits I do for the whole year, and it is awesome. I don't know if you can see the trails here are super engaging. The Marquette area system of trails is just extensive. They've got kind of 3 trail systems. You can see we're up here in the top one, and we'll snake down to Mount Marquette there on the right in the middle, and then finish down there on that little bottom loop. It gets more technical throughout, and there are a lot of situations like this where you're trying to follow the GPS, but you've got to respond to stuff really quickly. So following arrows sometimes is a problem. I missed a lot of turns this day, had to turn around and run, which we're going to see. And I am already dropped by that other mountain biker guy. You can see he's just taken off. There's some technical uphills, rocky. I'm getting a lot better at mountain biking, but I've got a long way to go to keep up with these native mountain bikers for that matter. Here I'm already having some hiccups. My bike setup was a little risky for the day. The guy who is off the front right now, I'm currently sitting in 4th place. The guy who's off the front right now in first, Jared, he's got Maxxis Aspens on, so those are fast tires, and I've also got some fast tires on. I've got the Schwalbe Thunderbirds on, which was quite a risk. These are 2.4s, so they're pretty big, and I've been racing on them a good bit, but this is a chunky course. There's lots of rocks, just stuff that's going to stop you up and potentially damage the tires. But these tires were holding up pretty well when I pre-rode, so we'll see how that works out for me. Anyway, we're going down some more of these sick berms here at the start. This whole trail system was super engaging. I really only got a chance to pre-ride the Mount Marquette and then kind of the last 10-15 miles, which are reportedly the hardest 10-15 miles. To give you some context on this race, it's 100 miles, 107 miles roughly, and the normal finish time is 10.5 hours. Quick math, I was kind of expecting to do less than 10 miles an hour, which is sometimes a third of what my normal race speed is, although this whole time you're just super engaged and you feel like you're going way faster than you should be. When I was alone, I definitely slowed down a bunch. You can see me catching up to this fella here and jumping over some train tracks. You could see on the left there, the train actually stopped up Matt and him, and I ended up catching up to these guys. So, well-timed train for me. Maybe not for those two guys who ended up losing some time to that situation. But we're at mile 19 in this race. My nutrition plan was roughly scheduled out, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we had these Black Bibs on with the cargo pockets on the sides. I also wore my Senna helmet, which I got to use a little later to listen to some music, get a little entertained. I brought carbs fuel gels. I had roughly 100 grams of gels per hour, and I had probably 20 carbs fuel gels. I also brought this Psych Plus electric pump just as a quick fix. I don't really like CO2s because it feels like if you mess it up, you're in big trouble, but this pump is a good in-between. I also brought a spare tube and a little 6mm Allen key. I also brought a set of plugs, but I taped on my spare tube to the top of my bike frame. Here you can see a guy named Kyle actually caught up to me. He is Canadian national champion of some sort. We chatted for a good bit, but we rode together for quite a while. There's a guy behind me in like a yellow kit, and once these guys caught back up to me, he told me, don't lose that wheel. And I was like, all right, I guess I won't. Usually I leave a little space off-road racing for any sort of reactions that I need to make, but following Kyle here was actually super smooth, and I felt like I was getting a lot better at mountain biking just by sticking a little closer than I would normally be comfortable with to his wheel here. We're continuing to roll through. There's this little section, lots of these little road crossings, and we jump up onto this Jeep track, which actually had some kind of deep ruts in it. Drinking water wherever I can, but here we go into like this little channel, this little rut thing, and Kyle was kicking his bike. I tried to cross back over onto that trail and just lost my front wheel. The guy in the yellow there passes me, and we're going to continue into it. I was really holding back here, but eventually we got through the sand section, got through a feed zone, and then we were on that greenway for quite a while, it felt like, which was nice because I had been jackhammered for a minute into that. Kyle and I are just riding together. We actually caught up to Matt and the guy in the green helmet, and we continued on through that paved section, through a really long sand section before that first little feed area, I suppose. And it's just him and I. We're in third place right now. I'm technically in fourth, and he's rocking in third right there. And we're riding together pretty good. We chatted for quite a while. Kyle was a lot faster on the single track than me. Kind of told him I was a crit racer, so he was going to need to lead me through this stuff. He's also done Unbound and various other more ultra races, I think we could call it. And I was more than happy to just sit on his wheel and let him do the pacemaking. So we continued on. We had that nice little area through the field there, and then we kept going through single track. I was holding on to him for quite a while, and then all of a sudden I realized I wasn't going to be able to hold that pace. We were like roughly 35 miles in. I had asked him at one point, like, hey, you picked up a token yet? I'll remind you, we have those tokens in this race, so you've got to pick up tokens, and if you don't get them, you're going to get disqualified. There are these little checkpoints. We'll see them a little bit later, but neither one of us had picked up a token, and we're roughly 40 miles in. I had let go of his wheel. We're at Mount Marquette here, and there was a tree down on one of these downhill switchbacks. I had seen that the day before, which was super helpful. And I jumped off my bike super quick. So this whole trail system was actually really fun. We rode this the day before, and we were having a blast doing it. Eventually hopped down through the bottom of the Marquette Trail System, Mount Marquette Trail System, into this really cool little forested area and down into like more of a river section. I don't know where I'm going for a lot of this stuff, so I'm taking it kind of slow, trying not to veer off the trail, cross over this cool super narrow bridge section, and there's just mountain bikers everywhere, people riding on this Saturday morning. I'm 43 miles in, which is less than 20 miles away from my longest mountain bike ride ever.
Okay, we are 60 miles in, downhill, first checkpoint, root beer, dum dum. I hope that's the first checkpoint. Not nerve-wracking at all. Kind of alone. Kyle guy's in front of me, Matt guy's behind me, that other dude. Ooh, thank you. Get rid of that.
And you can see there that I got my first checkpoint at 60 miles in, which was super nerve-wracking. That was a long time to be on a bike, roughly 6 hours, a little more probably, of being on the bike. And then we get to our second aid station, I suppose. Got Jeff Sims, Sierra's dad, here helping us out, having a good time. There's a ton of people here helping out for the race. Sierra was in fourth at this point also, so I'm sitting in fourth. I'm kind of far behind the guy in front of me, Kyle, and rolling through this like little field section, get around the back of that proper aid station, and then jump onto the trail system again. This is kind of the last trail system. There's 2 loops of it, so we come back through that feed zone again, hang this right turn, and I did not expect to see stairs there. And I made it right to the top of them before I quit. I am tired at this point in the race, if it's not obvious. So I'm going to make a lot more technical errors, get to another checkpoint here. And some of these are put in pretty cruel locations. So you would reach in, sometimes there'd be nothing, but you just had to slow down and dismount your bike just to reach into an empty pumpkin, which was pretty hilarious. Here we are, 69 miles in, which is another addition to that fun little joke. And we're going up a hill. Matt ended up catching up to me. He discussed in the beginning how he usually likes to take the beginning super slow, and he's a super talented technical rider. Also knows these trails in and out, so he definitely caught up to me through all the single track section. He told me this little zigzag was a tough one, and to make sure I had spent a little match on here just to get up it, you can see he's really cranking on the pedals there. There's a cool little thing with his rear wheel there. I'm not able to hang with that, not at this point during the race. I've spent a little too much energy. Then more rock sections. I'm trying to catch back up to him, but at this point I'm just going to let him go. There are these little bergs everywhere, and I get up to this little rock here, and
oh, that really hurt. Okay.
I just smacked my knee on my handlebar or something like that. My whole left leg just started feeling real rough. That wasn't even a technical or fast section, but I'm starting to make pretty bad bobbles here 78 miles into the race, so I decided at that point I would take my time, be smooth, try to get through this last chunky and slow trail section just as smooth and as responsible as I possibly could. It continued to go up and down. There were a ton of these little bergs. You would have just people walking everywhere. The last 40 miles of the race saw us passing a bunch of people that were doing the Marji Gesick 50, which is a super popular one too. That also takes people 12 hours just because these trails are quite slow, quite technical, and they demand a lot of attention and a lot of walking for a lot of people. So we're also passing runners because there's a Marji Gesick 100 run, 50 run. There's a lot of running that's going on here, and those guys take the whole day just out there running on the trails. Pretty insane. Big event. And we are continuing through to mile 81. These trails kept getting more and more technical. I've got blood running down my knee, and I am just trying to lock in the entire time. I am many miles into the longest race I've ever done. I'm probably at like an hour longer than I've ever raced before at this point, so don't really know what the body's going to do. Jump up into this other checkpoint, also a dummy. So we've gotten one dum-dum, and then I've been made a dum-dum twice by reaching into an empty pumpkin. Continuing through a trail system that I actually have ridden before. I had already gotten another feed. I'd bonked probably twice at this point and recovered from it because I was only eating like 80 grams of carbs per hour up until this. It's hard to eat on this trail. I had grabbed my pack, which I didn't start with, but I finished with, and thrown it on, drank a whole 1.5 liters of water from there. Ooh, you have these real cool technical natural bridge and then wooden bridge sections that you run through. There's this guy here. Looks like he's got a pretty good flat. Lots of things that could goof with your bike. I actually, pretty close to the end here, like shifted at an uphill point and just bent the hell out of one of the teeth on my rear cassette. So now I'm dealing with one ring on that rear cassette that I happen to use a good bit not working. Eventually I tried to get past these guys and just absolutely stalled up this rock here. I am continuing to make these rough little bobbles. There's a lot of these super steep uphill sections where you just got to crank it into your lowest gear, almost track stand up stuff, and there's plenty of traction until it rains, which it did look like it was going to rain later in the day. Another bobble here up a little rock section. Sometimes I would just zone out. I did have, some music playing through my helmet at this point just to keep me entertained and not dreading my life. But 99 miles in. So we've got roughly 8 miles to go. We're in the last trail section, but this is going to be the longest 8 miles I think I've ever done on a bicycle. I keep making these bobbles, so I have to keep checking back in, really paying attention as much as possible to the trail, stretching my ability. My instincts on the mountain bike are not as ingrained as I think a lot of my other competitors here. I'm sitting 5th place behind Kyle and Matt and Jordan up front, and one other guy in the blue. And then that guy in the green helmet, he is catching up to me. I know he's a better single track rider than I am, so I've just got to keep moving as much as humanly possible on this section. Put down power where I can. I felt pretty good. Like you can see my heart rate is pretty squarely in my zone 2, higher zone 2, but I am very concerned that I'm gonna bonk. You can see here I've got the water bottle in the mouth here, just trying to get as much fluid in as possible. I downed like a Pop-Tart at the mile 90 station. I never had like real food. I was just doing gels and bars and bobo bars just to get something a little bit better in there. Grabbed another checkpoint here, and I think this one was a proper token. We had stuff like this here that was on the course. Just these wooden cool little tokens. And then we also had dum-dums. Anyway, continued down through this last little bit of trail section, and I just blew a turn. I was trying to pass this guy, thinking we were going straight, didn't pay attention to the actual trail, and just went on by it. I had no excuse. I had already ridden this part of the trail, but alas, I'm continuing with the race. This guy kindly let me by on this rock section. I felt a lot more confident the farther we got throughout this race, and I'm just plowing through all this. You'll notice I was able to record a lot on this day, and the camera I was using is this Insta360 X4. I've used this camera a lot, but Insta360 has worked with me on the channel before, and I highly recommend if you're going to do a race like this and want the battery life and the ability to zoom around, see stuff. Oh, stopping at this awesome aid station here, and grabbed a Coke because at this point I really needed some extra motivation. My brain is blown at this point, and I am just trying to get everything I can to continue through this race. But one of the cool features of this Insta360 is you can actually change the battery super easy. So you just like clip it out here and then it slides out, which is what I did. I had like a 256 gigabyte card in there, so being able to swap out the battery super easy at the aid station, just hand the dead battery back, was really awesome. So if you're looking, the Insta360 X4 is pretty good. You can't change the lenses, but I sent mine in for repair because naturally I broke it, and the repair is actually super affordable, and it chugs right along. Continuing up, some more kind of tough sections of this course. There was a lot of uphill at the end, and it just would hit you again and again and again with some cool downhills, and then you just smash up a technical uphill that requires energy, or you're going to walk. I did a lot more walking than you're going to see on this video because luckily I wasn't recording for some of that. So this makes me look like a little bit better mountain biker than I am, but I was never really ashamed to walk. I think one of the best parts of this is that I kind of learned to be okay with walking hard sections, especially later in a race where that was going to be the fastest move for me, as opposed to slowly dismounting, standing up, and wasting time. There were some other sections like this, super rocky sections. You would come down and then have to come back up, a super technical thing, and there were guys in front of me. I was kind of happy they were in front of me because I didn't want to try and ride that. It was going to be faster for me to walk a lot of these things. We're 102 miles in, so I'm over 10 hours into this race, I think, at this point, trying to hike. I'm getting a blister on my foot. I've got these like specialized shoes that I've worn a handful of times. The wild thing with mountain biking for me is I'm not used to anything, so almost everything is new every time I try it. I have, luckily, a lockout onto this bike, which is the second time I've ridden with the lockout, but here we come over probably my favorite little area, which is super technical, like rock stuff. This is a super engaging part of the course where you're just like paying attention the entire time. Late into a race like this, last time I did it was stopping up again. Big gravel race, so it was flat too, so you're not really paying attention to anything. You just have to zone out. I usually like music, and about 7 hours into a ride like this, especially when I haven't seen anybody that I'm racing, I don't know where anyone's at, I'm just running from a phantom mountain biker behind me, knowing I'm probably not going to catch any mountain bikers in front of me. You're whipping through these trees. A lot of these sections are gorgeous. So we come down near this like little lake area on this little rock outcrop, down it into this little bridge section, and then we've got to go back up that other situation on the side here. I am cracked at this point. I'm just eating as much food as I can stomach. Every time I took a gel, it was like, I really don't want to eat this anymore. And I had a banana in my pocket, which we'll see a little bit later. But this is the section where I just decided I could ride this. This is not super technical, but it's steep, and my legs are not ready for that kind of steepness. It didn't let up ever really either. Come down some big rock outcroppings, get another checkpoint. I have, I think, 5 at this point. This dude, super helpful, gave me the token, and I could just keep on going, which was awesome to not have to run over there and reach into an empty pumpkin. I will tell you that. But unfortunately, that checkpoint's at another cruel spot where they just make you go straight up right afterwards. So either get on your bike at the start or get that momentum as much as possible. Coming around a little fenced-in area, which is kind of cool. There's so many things to look at in these woods. There are beautiful views. Riding out here must be awesome when it's not covered in snow. We're on top of like a pipeline for a lot of it, which is really neat to do. You can see it's like, yeah, super angled on both sides. So if you slipped off, you would waste some time for sure. And then going back up another cruel little rock technical hill that just requires you to push the pedals hard. My heart rate is up and down this entire day. I've got very few miles, 3 miles to go, but every mile seemed like it was taking absolute ages to get through. To get up to this race, we actually had to go through a good bit of traffic. It's like an 18-hour drive for me, but it was very well worth it. I missed a turn right there. You could see other people who had smashed the brakes, noticing that they missed that turn too, and that was kind of misleading, and I wasn't really paying enough attention to the trail itself. Coming through more rock sections here, and man, it just keeps demanding more and more from you, even later into the race, which is a kind of cruel, but also definitely helped make the miles go by, especially at the end of the race here, where all you want to do is just zone out, passing some 50-milers who were always super happy to just tell you were doing a great job. Another checkpoint. I think this is actually checkpoint 5. And coming up to these guys here, he tells me it's fake. Saves me a little time from having to check into a pumpkin. They're hollering, hooting at me, telling to keep going. We are not that far from the finish. A few miles at this point. And you get onto a road section, you think you're done, but they send you up this big old berg. It's some sort of mountain, I think. I don't know a lot about this course, which blissful ignorance was kind of nice on the first time. And you just have to mash up this mountain a mile from the finish. My head unit was actually telling me it was 4 miles from the finish, so I'm going to make some choices based off of that false information. But continuing to just smash up this thing, I'm pretty cracked. And I'm just trying to get up and into it. There's a bunch of people cheering up at the top. I go over to the pumpkin and grab the last and crucial little part, because the last thing you want to do at this point is go up that out and back. And I paid it forward, handed that other dude my token. His token, rather. Because that last guy did it for me. So that was pretty cool. Then back down the hill and into a little paved section into the finish. So down the hill, people are hooting and hollering, super stoked that everybody is this close to the finish. I actually, at this point, decided to eat a banana because I thought there were 4 miles to go. So I'm down in a banana. I'm less than a mile from the finish. This wasn't necessary, but nobody was catching me, luckily. I never was actually looking back for anybody catching me, because if they did, they were going to have it. Cross through this little town. I think this might be Ishmapeg. Nagani. There are a lot of towns that we went through, stacked with people, through the start-finish line. Pretty cool start-finish. Just tons of people that had done big bike rides that day. Cross through. Jeff on the left there, happy to give me a high five. Lynn finished the 50-mile 2 minutes in front of me. But I ended up 11 hours roughly, got my belt buckle. There were 3 women that finished under 12 this year, which was really cool to see. First time that has ever happened. Once you finish this race under 12, you get a belt buckle. You can see there is a limited amount of people that do that, so I was super stoked on my first time to get this awesome belt buckle. Anyway, it was an awesome race. Really enjoyed going out to Michigan to do the longest and most challenging race I have done up until this point. Thank you for watching. If you're not already, please subscribe. See ya.
What's up, you guys?